Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 10 surprising thoughts from abroad about the US, and as someone who is abroad, I guess this kind of matches something that I could watch and give my opinions on. But yeah, hopefully going to enjoy. And if you want more reactions to this stuff, let me know in the comments. I do quite a lot of reactions to this guy, but sometimes he's quite brutal on some of the things he says. So if you do want more, let me know. If not, maybe I'll stop. But we're going to check this out. Hopefully going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more of my reactions that I can't post to YouTube for whatever reason. But let's jump into this and see some of these things.
Today we're going to find out what people that have never been to the United States actually think about the US and its people. No matter where you live on the planet, you have some preconceived notions about other places and people. The USA is probably the poster child for this. The rest of the world has some strange ideas and thoughts about Americans and the United States. This could be said for every country, but I think for the United States it's a little bit more. When you've never been someplace or done any real research, you rely on rumors, urban legends, and the internet. These things oftentimes paint a picture in your mind that is a little skewed, distorted, and sometimes inaccurate. As an example, I was only like 18 at the time, but before I lived in Panama, I thought it was like the canal, jungle, maybe a couple small cities, and a bunch of grass huts. I was only half right, and that's what this video is all about. It's based on a survey where people outside North America were asked to pick 5 out of 50 common beliefs people have about the United States and its people.
Common beliefs. If I was being stereotypical and stuff like that, it would be love fast food, love guns, but I think those are both true. Who doesn't love fast food? I mean, when I say love fast food, I mean, I don't know what population would eat fast food and stuff, but that's 2. What 3 more? I can't even think of 2, to be honest. Just the 2 most common ones. They are the most common, and they're more stereotypical than anything. I don't know if they really go into this. Quite loud. I mean, that's the thing I hear a lot. That's not. I've never thought that beforehand, but I hear that a lot. I'm just saying things that people think in general, or generalization. I can't really think. I'm just wasting time. Like, it'd be the same for the UK, but I'm just thinking of stereotypes. Like we drink tea, we eat crumpets, we're all polite and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just.
These are the 10 that were picked most often. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Americans are all in debt. Yeah, they think.
I've never thought about that, but I have heard about it because is it like with healthcare and stuff? A lot of people just get in debt from that. But what other stuff would it be? I guess everyone's in debt who owns a house, right? Because you're literally paying your mortgage off, and that is pretty much what debt is.
Think we run up our credit cards and we're all living above our means, and I guess we claim bankruptcy every 10 years. Now, we do, but there are other places that carry a lot more debt than the average American. The average European citizen carries more debt than Americans.
Really?
The average household debt in the US is about 113% of the household's income. In the UK, it's about 156%. In Sweden, it's 107%.
House prices in the UK are a joke. That is just straight up
73%. In Denmark, it's a whopping 300%. So it's sort of true that 300%. Americans live above their means and we got some debt, but there are countries that are far worse than we are. 27% of the respondents chose debt.
Damn.
Number 9, our healthcare system is a nightmare. Yeah, it kind of is. When you start talking about health insurance and cost and
it just makes me sad. My girlfriend's mum's partner, so not blood related, used to work in Silicon Valley, and we just get into conversations. It's quite interesting. Someone who's worked somewhere like that, lived in San Francisco, and that was just brought up in a conversation. And he was like talking from the perspective of, oh well, the healthcare for me was fine because you got it under the insurance, and if you're working in Silicon Valley, you're gonna have the best insurance for healthcare, you know. But I feel really bad for like people who are under the poverty line and stuff, because how are you going to afford that? You probably don't have it. Well, you're not going to have a job that gives you and provides you with a certain thing that will make it cheaper or whatever, and you also don't have the money for that either. So it's just like, it's scary. I don't know the in-depth, mate. Like, I've heard of things like Medicare. I've not looked into it, but I just know for a fact there are some people who have replied saying they spend a lot. Maybe it's not everyone, but it's just a scary thing, man. Because it's like, you've got the best healthcare in the world, and then it's also like the price in it is like, wow, that is just, it does baffle me. I mean, I could go into a long conversation about it, but I feel like it's a touchy subject for some reason. I mean, I understand why it's a touchy subject, but I just think, I feel like healthcare should be free. Obviously, you're paying for it. Everyone's paying for it through tax and stuff, but that's people's opinions, right? But that's what I think, to be honest. But
and all that stuff, it's pretty scary to a lot of countries.
I say free like that because obviously you're going to be spending more on tax and stuff, but I just think overall it just leads to happier people. But at the same time, it then probably leads to things like the NHS where they're not getting paid enough, and then they're getting overworked and they're going on strike and stuff. The healthcare system in the UK is a mess right now, but it works in other places and all that. But I have gone privately before because the waiting times will be too long sometimes, but very rarely. And that's only if I'm really like trying to get to the bottom of something. But other than that, I'll stick to the NHS. Plus with medication and stuff, it helps a lot because it's so cheap. For an inhaler, £9. It's not obviously cheap. You can get it free if you don't work and stuff, and like you don't have a job. That's how it works here. But £9 for an inhaler, I can't really complain.
Especially the countries that have single-payer systems. Our healthcare system does do a lot of great things. It's just terribly expensive, confusing, and sadly, a lot of people, because of cost, don't go to the hospital when they need to. Overall, our healthcare system is better than most countries and more advanced than most industrialized countries. Now, you could cherry-pick a bunch of different stats that prove that it kind of sucks, but you could do that with anything. I mean, one that people always like to bring up is we have a high infant mortality rate. We're ranked 49th in the world back in 2020.
Probably because it's just more people here, right?
With
per 1,000.
5.44 infant deaths for every 1,000. If you look at Japan with 1.82, Norway with 1.79, Iceland is 1.54, the United Kingdom is 3.62, Canada is 4.38, not too far from us. You just think we'd do better on something like that. But that's the stat they always want to pull up whenever they want to talk bad about the US healthcare system, that and the cost. 38% chose healthcare.
I never heard about that before, but that's quite scary.
Number 8, public transportation. Now, this is a big one
Trains
for
and stuff,
Europeans,
right?
I'm sure. They have a great public transit system. While most other countries focused on trains and subways and ferries, we focused on roads and bridges. Don't get me wrong, we have a terrific highway system. But when you look at our public transit system, it's lacking. I mean, our best cities are probably only as good as the average European city. If you look at cities in Asia and most of Europe, you'll also see that people walk and ride bikes a lot more than we do here. And that's how this one got on the list. I just think most people that have never been to the United States think our public transit is kind of antiquated, and it sort of is. Now, this is based on what people think or what they've heard about the US, that they've never been here. I was reading this one.
To be fair, I've heard it from people in the comments. People have said that as well. So I guess it's just based off experience. If you drive, it's probably not a problem for you, and a lot of people in the US do drive, but I guess the select few that don't, it's a big deal for.
Thing where this person thought that homeless people sleep on all our buses. That used to be kind of a common thing for homeless at our bus stops, but not really so much on the buses themselves. 40% chose public transportation.
Damn.
Number 7, they think we're all racists. You know, America's got a...
That's not true at all. I mean, there's racism everywhere, and I guess maybe it's the history, but then you got to think about, it's just, I'm not going to compare because racism anywhere is terrible and it happens everywhere, but I don't think if people really think that, they probably need to look at their own countries because it's the same everywhere. Maybe it's allowed us, because the US is like it's just, you see all the news in the US, right? So you see it more. And there are certain things that happen more in the US than other places here. Like, you don't get certain rallies and stuff. I mean, you get like the EDL rallies, but they got shut down and all that. But it's a different level. But at the same time, the US is like the most diverse country. So it's hard to really say that because the large majority are not going to be like that at all. But I guess because it's a bigger population and there's more eyes on the country, you just see it more. Everywhere's got racism. Let's just put that out there.
Long history of racism. But we're not the only ones. An NBC News poll said that 65% of Europeans said racism remains a major problem.
It's bad in Europe. Some parts of Europe are awful. I'm not going to say England's good because around sporting competitions you see all this stuff, but a lot of it is from just random accounts, made up accounts, and you'll see them when they're from like around the world. And there are some from here as well, some awful people. But in certain places, you see it in sports, the racism is insane. It's crazy. Like, I'm just gonna say, in Italy, beautiful country, but in sports, the crowds are insane, and Spain as well, towards black players. It's ridiculous. It's like quite scary. So you can't really speak from the perspective. But at the same time, Europe is so many countries. Some parts of Europe are a lot more, like a lot different. That's not all of Europe, right? But some parts are bad. Some parts are probably better. Some parts are a lot worse. So you can't. It's just generalizing, isn't it?
In the United States, many of the countries in Asia feel the same way about us. But if you go back in the history of just about any country, you're going to find some serious racism and some horrible things. I mean, we had slavery and Jim Crow laws. But yeah, a lot of people that have never been to the United States are under the impression we're all just a bunch of racists.
I don't think people think all Americans are racist, though. That's not true. It's probably just a sort of comeback that people come back with on the internet and something like that. But I don't think anyone would truly believe that at all. I mean, sorry, there would be people, but not the large majority.
You're partially right. Sadly, 53% chose racism. Number 6, our cities are all dirty. Well, I mean, cities in general, I don't care where you are, they're dirty. People living on...
I mean, I've heard about New York. I feel like New York's a place that you just hear about being dirty, but maybe that was a long time ago, I don't know.
On top of each other, like they do in cities, tend to mess things up. And places get dirty and they don't get cleaned right away. If you look at New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland these days, Detroit, we have some pretty dirty cities. I was in Houston last year. Yeah, it was a pretty dirty place. I think the image a lot of people from outside North America have of the United States, though, that we have cities with trash piled up on the sidewalk, 6 feet high, doesn't get picked up for months, graffiti everywhere, just spewing toxins into the air. I mean, it's a little true, but it's not nearly as bad as the rumors you might pick up in other parts of the world. I mean, there's parts of Asia where people actually think we have rats the size of pit bulls roaming the streets of New York City.
That's literally what was crossing my head. I was going to say, like, the rats in New York. Didn't say it because I was thinking, wait, is that true? But that was what was in my head. I don't know why. Where's that come from?
Maybe the size of a small cat, but the size of a pit bull can only be found in movies. 55% chose dirty cities. Number 5, we have a horrible work-life balance.
I think that is true. I mean, I've seen videos based on that. Fucking overworked to insane levels. There was a graph that showed a few other countries in Europe are more overworked, but it's up there.
A lot of people from other countries think that our corporations run everything, and they kind of do, but it's not nearly as bad as some of these people think. The biggest problem is a lot of different countries have a lot more vacation time, sick leave, things like that. Some of the Scandinavian countries, a lot of their businesses have gone to 4-day weeks, and there are countries that when they hear we do overtime, they're like, why? Why would you do that? The answer is, there's some jobs you need to do it if you want to keep your job, or if you want to get promoted, you better pull some overtime. A lot of countries don't do that.
Plus, my girlfriend, whenever she's given extra shifts, she'll take them 80% of the time because it's just more hours. It's just money. People need money, right?
At all. Now, there are countries that are far worse than we are when it comes to work-life balance. Japan's a prime example. 60-hour weeks are for lightweights in Japan. I think that's sort of changing here in the United States. A lot of people are doing that quiet quitting that was all the rage like last year. They're starting to see putting all that effort in for a company isn't really worth it. One guy brought up a good point. If you're ever unfortunate to be working someplace and a coworker dies, not at work, at home, or whatever, see how fast they replace that person. Or when someone gets fired, how fast did they replace that person? If it's too fast, you start to realize you're really just a disposable cog in a machine. The work-life balance was the one in the survey that got the most comments. 57% chose work-life balance. Number 4, all we think about is money. I'd say...
Bro, I'm money obsessed. To be fair, when I think about the US, it is a place I think, like, the money there is insane. Like, the money in sports, the money in so many things, it's just to a different level. Like, the sports in the US will be less watched overall than other sports. Like, cricket's watched by billions of people. Maybe not billions, but in certain parts of the world. Or soccer or football or whatever. But the money involved in the sports is just... it's to a different level, and it just blows my mind. It's like... yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I'm not saying money obsessed, but the money in general, just involved in a lot of things, is just obscene in a good way. I mean, that's better. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be money obsessed too. Money's how the world functions. If I could be rich, I would be rich. I'd love to be rich, but it's not how life works. But being money obsessed, maybe if you pick it over certain things, if that's what it's gonna go into, but I think being money motivated, there's things that are worse,
This is true for about 75% of the United States. Half of that 75% is just those people that are obsessed with money. They're trading stocks, they're trying to get ahead, they want to be a millionaire, those types. Then the other half are the people that are just trying to get by. So they're obsessed with money because they need to make more so they can just get by, pay their bills, maybe get out of debt. Then that other 25% is filled with people that are rich and hippies that don't care. I think this one is a little correct because in the United States, money is king. You have money, you get to do what you want.
Money is king everywhere. Why is that even a conversation? It's literally, money is how the world functions. It's sad, but that's how it is.
You don't have to worry about as much, hopefully, and you obviously have more opportunities.
This sort of goes maybe into the last one, though, because you work more, you get more money, so maybe it's sort of like 2 and 1,
When you don't have money, you worry about it all the time, you don't have many opportunities, and you don't get to do much stuff. A lot of people outside North America, and mostly I'd say European people, don't get why we really respect people for how much they make, what they own, and not really as much for who they are. Now, that's not every American feels that way, obviously, but that is kind of a thing here in the US. 60% chose...
If you got a friend who's making good money, I'm going to be gassing him up, man. He's went to uni for 6 years. He's going to get a 100k a year job. Mate, I'm proud of you, That's a fair point. I mean, I wouldn't ask someone how much they earn, though. That's like a bit different. But.
Money obsessed? Number 3, our obsession with celebrities.
I do find this a bit strange. I think the whole celebrity stuff is a bit weird. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be celebrities, and there's always going to be people that are the top people. There's got to be somewhere where they're going to be, and it's going to be in the US because that's where all the TV or like the films are made. They're all like come together in Los Angeles, but there is a big obsession of certain things. But I feel like people around the world will have obsessions. Like there's going to be Katy Perry stans in the UK, or just whatever, just fans of whoever from around the world. But it is weird, like some people just love celebrities in general, and it's just a bit strange.
This one kind of freaks me out too. There's a certain portion of our population that they're obsessed with celebrities, and you don't really find it as much in other countries. And this goes way back. Americans have long been obsessed with entertainment and the people that are involved in entertainment, from Charlie Chaplin to the Kardashians, and now Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube creators. I was just on a cruise with a bunch of YouTube creators, and there was a bunch of people on there that recognized me and knew who I was. Now, I'm by no stretch of the imagination any form of celebrity, but some of the people that knew me stopped and they wanted selfies, things like that. Well, that was fine. Usually 5, 6, 7 people. But then people walking by that had no idea who I was started crowding around trying to figure out who I was because of their obsession with entertainers and things like that. They thought I was someone special when in reality I'm just some clown that talks into a microphone and travels. But the way we are about celebrities, you really don't see it that much in other countries. And it's not by mistake, it's by design. If we're obsessed with celebrities, we buy what they're selling. Now, I'm not trying to
It's like a whole economy, isn't it?
say that other countries like in Europe and Asia or wherever are immune to this. They do get a little crazy about their sports stars, but nothing like we.
To be fair, if I saw a Manchester United player walking around, I'd be too shy to ask for a picture because I've seen footballers before. I'd be too shy to go up to them, but I would be like, wow, that is crazy. Just see Cristiano Ronaldo walking down the street. I'm like, fair enough. I probably would ask for a picture then. But
we do here in the United States. I think we're a little calmer about our celebrities than they are, but when it comes to movie stars, TV stars, and the like, we're a little strange compared to these other countries.
Everyone's starstruck by someone, so I understand it to a level, right? But there's also a point where it is just it does get quite strange, but people around the world love it, so I mean there's nothing that's going to change.
And they think it's kind of weird. That's why it's number 3 on this list. 60% chose celebrity obsession. Number 2, the political division. If you haven't noticed, here in the United States, we're having some issues with our political differences. We always have, but nothing to the level that they've been, let's say, in the last 10 years.
It has gone crazy recently, hasn't it? It's like getting more and more split. You hear it on the news and you think, oh, it's all clickbait, but it does seem like everything's just widening now.
And it just keeps getting worse. Well, here in the United States, we're not the only ones seeing this. They see it too in other places. They hear about it, and I think it's exaggerated a little bit in other countries, but it's still pretty bad. I think what they don't get is we've separated into different camps, and it seems like it's lost on a lot of Americans to them that we're actually one country. Again, not that other countries are immune from political division. They've had overthrows, they've had coups in other countries. I mean, we even had a civil war at one point, so this isn't the worst we've ever been in our history, but it's pretty bad right now, and it's hitting all the press everywhere. I don't know if any of you remember, but there was a time that we could actually talk about politics to each other and share our views.
I'm too young, but I don't even get into politics, man. I just cannot be arsed.
And not lose friends. Dana White, who's the president of the UFC, he sat down with Tucker Carlson not too long ago, and he said the most amazing thing. They were talking about politics, and he said, I didn't vote for Biden, but he's the president of the United States, and I'm an American, so he's my president. Then he said, I don't hate or dislike anyone who voted for Biden. Then he said that if you're the type of person that hates or dislikes someone for who they voted for, shows me exactly what type of person you are. And I don't want to know you anyway. And it's not because of who you voted for, how you carry yourself. He finished it off with, who you vote for and how you live your life means nothing to me. It's a free country. You could do what you want. You could live how you want. It's none of my business. In reality, that's how it should be. I mean, Dana White said it perfectly. But a lot of other people in a lot of other countries see how we're acting right now, and they're kind of, yeah, that's why I wouldn't live there. It's too volatile. 72% chose political division.
I know what's going to be number one. I mean, it's just leading up to it, isn't it?
All right, before low. And number one, gun violence.
See, the scary thing about this, right, is I swear something literally happened yesterday. It is crazy. I'm not going to get into whatever because it's the most touchy thing, but I've got a friend. I always say this, I've got a friend stuff, but it's genuinely true. I'm not just saying this. Who wants to go on, like, is it like a gap year in uni? He wants to go abroad somewhere, and he was mentioning he wanted to go to the US, but he's scared that something will happen because what you see, it's like a different world. And although it's like, again, like I said before, the US is like the center of the news world. You'll see all the stuff that happens there, but other places you won't see it as much. So it gets emphasized more. But then this stuff, it scares me, and I don't even live there, but I can see his perspective. He wants to go there because it's like, okay, you want to go there. The education there is incredible. The experience to live in the US whilst you lived in the UK your whole life for a year, it would just be like a lifetime thing, right? But he's too scared. And I know there's such a small chance of anything actually happening, but still, you see the stuff, and I mean, I can see his perspective, man. It would be scary. There was like a really bad one yesterday, I'm pretty sure. Was it like 20 people? Scares me just thinking about it, man. Oh, fucking hell.
Yes, most other countries have a problem with our gun violence. We have a lot of it, and it's kind of bad. Compared to other countries that aren't at war or something like that, our gun violence is a little ridiculous. Now, I'm not anti-guns. I own guns. I was in the military. We just have a lot of gun violence, and the worst part about it is it hits the press daily, and that press gets over to other countries, and they see it, and it looks really bad, and they think we're basically war-torn wasteland of people shooting each other in the street over parking spots. Not saying that hasn't happened, but I think they get the feeling that type of stuff happens every single day. We do have shootings every day, but not over parking spaces. Now, obviously, there's a lot more that goes into this, and I'm skirting the real facts about this because I don't want to get demonetized. 90% of the respondents picked gun violence.
It's not a surprise. I can definitely see why that's there because it's just a thing that crosses people's mind. And like I mentioned, you see it on the news all the time. It's just, it baffles me. It's so scary. Like, it's such a different world because, like, you think of the US, you think of this place that's like, it's like the top country or one of the top countries. You've got like the major countries, right? The US, Japan, Germany, like those countries. I'd say the UK as well, but maybe that's just me being biased. That you sort of, safety is like the number one thing, and like you feel safe, like you can just sort of live a life of like, and a lot of other countries, by the way, oh shit, I need to spill that everywhere. A lot of other countries, I'm just saying a few, but you see it in the news, and don't get me wrong, this bad stuff that happens in the UK a lot, and especially because it's such a small country, it will be a lot like more like common because there's so many people that live here. But it's just the news. It scares me a lot, to be honest. It does just blow my mind. But I'm talking about it a lot. But I've definitely heard a lot of these. Some of them I don't know if they're true. But the first one, healthcare. See, I wish there was videos like this done about the UK, because I'd be really fascinated to give my own opinion on this as well. Because obviously this is just focused on the US. You can't really compare it, but having lived in Europe for 13 years, I have to say that no one in Paris has the right to say anything about dirty cities. Yeah, that's the reason I didn't go to Paris. I heard Paris is actually an absolute shithole, to be honest. I was never in a worse smelling subway system than in Paris. London isn't much better in terms of the subway system. Back in the late 60s, Robert A. Heinlein, or have you say it, wrote that the United States is a place where entertainers and athletes are frequently mistaken for people of importance. He only nailed that one. Yeah, people love athletes and celebrities. It's just how it is, isn't it? Well, there we go. Oh, wait. Oh, that's it. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on this. Hopefully I didn't annoy you too much. I tried to be balanced with this because I know people have completely different opinions, and I've learned that before from previous stuff. But I am just quiet. I don't get involved in political stuff. I just don't care for it. And yeah, so if I sort of share an opinion, maybe I'll seem a certain way, but I really am just like, you know what? You do what you want. I'll just be here doing these reactions and sharing my thoughts. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. And if you want more stuff like this, let me know in the comments. And until next time, like, subscribe.